Chapter 10. Time for talk is over. Jack is in the stairway, approaching Mrs. Murray's door. It is still taped shut. He cracks the door, and softly whispers inside, "Anybody home?" There is no answer, and he softly calls out again, "Mrs. Murray?" He steps into the apartment. It is empty, except for the cat, cowering in the corner, hissing at him. Jack walks into the kitchen and quickly looks around. He spies the medicine bottle on the counter, the one she had shown him. He stares at it for a while, then carefully opens the bottle to find it nearly full. Tipping several of the pills out, he puts them into his pocket before replacing the bottle on the counter, exactly as he had found it. Then, he leaves the apartment, sticking the tape back onto the door. S pause second equals 2E. Pause. Hal and Petey are talking, as usual, while Jack is puffing away on his cigar, looking straight ahead, without really paying attention to either. Suddenly, he stops smoking and turns to Petey. "Ever kill anybody, Petey?" Petey is startled by Jack's question, from out of the blue. He hesitates for a moment, before replying, "You know I did. Larry told you about me and Nam." "What did you think, when you did it?" "I didn't think, just did it. It's what I was there for. You kill them, or they'll kill you." "I never killed anybody up close and personal. It was always some guy off in the distance. I never saw the look in his eyes when he got shot. Never heard him scream, none of that. It was kinda like being at the boardwalk, except the targets were shooting back at you." "How did it make you feel?" Jack continues to subtly question him. "Afterwards, I mean. Not too good. I felt bad for those guys, they were forced into the whole thing, just like me. But, like I said before, it was them or me, I had to do what I had to do." "Your back was against the wall, and there was no other way out, right?" "Yeah, Jack, that's right." "What about you, Hal?" "Never killed nobody. Killed a dog once, my dog. I loved that Sammy, he was almost human to me. That was about the closest I ever come to killing a person." "How come you killed him?" Hal hesitates, then begins to explain. "He got real sick, and, in those days, back in my town, the only sick animals that ever saw a vet was the ones that were worth money, like farm stock, pets, like dogs and cats. They got the bullet. He was my dog, so I had the job of shooting him." Hal continues to explain how, as a child, he sat on an old, rickety wooden chair for hours, with tears streaming down his face, a rifle across his lap, and his dog lying by his side. Finally, he summoned the strength to stand up, and slowly walked out the door, his dog following. Within seconds, the shot had rung out, and it was done. I felt terrible about it for weeks after. But, kinda like Petey, in Nam, it was my job, and I had to do it. After a few seconds, Hal lifts his bowed head, and Jack speaks. "Do you think you could ever kill a person?" Hal answers pensively, "Maybe, if I had to, but I'm not real sure. I don't think anybody that's never done it can really say. They might say, 'Oh yeah, sure,' but when the time comes, it might be a whole different story." "You're right," replies Jack. "What about you, Jack?" Petey asks. "Don't know if I could. I'd like to think I'd be able to if I really had to." "What are you getting at, Jack, with all this talking about killing?" Hal asks. Jack pauses, before answering emotionally. "The other day, when those bums came to my house and hustled me, I thought I could have easily killed all of them if I had the chance. Then, when I saw you yesterday, Hal, and you told me what they did to you, I knew I could, and I would if I had the chance. I'm not talking about killing people here, I'm talking about exterminating rats and cockroaches. I look at it as being just like Terminix or Roto-Rooter, cleaning out the bugs and sewer rats." He pauses again, then continues, "I guess I'm kinda letting my imagination run away with me. And, I guess you're trying to find out if Hal and me would go along with you, if you did decide to do something, right?" "Yeah, I guess so," Jack confesses. "Count me out," Hal declares. "I can't be murdering nobody." "To be honest, I don't know if I could either, in spite of all my bullshit," Jack adds. "Probably, when it came right down to it, I wouldn't be able to. Guess we're just gonna have to go on living like animals then and get used to the firemen being the masters, and us being the ass-licking dogs," Hal surmises, with a sigh. But, after a pause, he continues once again, "Even if we did want to do it, how could we anyway? Without getting caught or getting ourselves killed," adds Petey. "I'm not sure, but I have some ideas." "Did you ever kill a snake, Hal?" asks Jack. "I never did, but I saw a lot of 'em get killed down south, when I was a kid, cottonmouths, you know." "How'd they do it? Do you remember?" "Yeah, they used to cut the head right off. They used to say that if you didn't, it wouldn't die, if you did, it would die at sundown." "Well, that's kinda my idea," Jack replies, We got to cut the head off, and then the body of the snake will die. How we cut it off is the problem. What do you mean, cut the head off? I mean, we get rid of the boss man. Yeah, but that didn't happen when Sandman disappeared. DS just stepped in and started the same old shit again, as smooth as could be. Maybe this time it's gotta be more dramatic, Jack suggests, something to really scare the piss out of them. So, what you're saying, Jack, is that we get rid of DS, and do it so that it's clear the others will be next if they don't quit. You got it, Petey. But, how? I'm not sure, repeats Jack. A brief silence prevails before Petey speaks. How about we send an anonymous threat? Maybe we can disturb them, get them suspicious of each other. Maybe we can get them at each other's throats. I'm not sure if it'll work, but I think we should give it a try before we start planning to kill anybody. Jack responds, with a sigh, I don't think it'll mean a damn thing, but I'm willing to try if that's what you guys want to do. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it'll work. The next morning, Jack is in the lunchbox, drinking his coffee at the counter, as Charlie is drying glasses. He watches, as a kid walks in, orders a soda, and Charlie goes to the back room, returning with a can of Coke. He hands it to the kid, who pays and leaves. Hey Charlie, how come you keep the soda cooler in the back? Jack asks, you have to keep going back there to get them all the time. Charlie points towards the front door, where the dusty outline of where the soda case once stood is still apparent on the floor. Used to have it in the front, over there, but kids used to run in the front door, grab a soda and run out. So, I had to move it back where they can't do that anymore. Jack changes the subject, where are your boys today? That gang of punks. Charlie looks at the clock, oh, they'll be here any minute, every day, around 10 o'clock, without fail. Jack continues to sip his coffee, and, within seconds, 4 of the firemen walk in, and go to sit at their usual booth. As their banter becomes more boisterous, Jack gets up and leaves. The following morning, Jack makes his way to the neighborhood playground. He is wearing a fake mustache, and a pair of old black-rimmed glasses, which he bought at the dollar store the day before. His hair is greasily slicked back, and he is unshaven. He looks at his watch, it reads 9:30. A boy, about 10 years old, is tossing a ball against a concrete wall and catching it. Jack approaches him. Son, would you like to make $10 doing me a favor? The boy immediately snaps upright, though continuing to throw and catch the ball. Listen old man, I'm not into gay stuff. Leave me alone. No. That's not what I mean. All I want you to do is take this piece of paper to the lunchbox, down the street. The boy stops playing and turns to see Jack holding out the note with one hand, and the $10 bill in the other. You sure that's all? The boy asks cautiously. Positive, Jack answers. The boy stares at the money for a moment, then, warily agrees. Okay. What do I gotta do? He timidly accepts the note from Jack. You take this note down to the lunchbox. Until you get there you keep it in your pocket. Go inside and ask the guy behind the counter for a soda. Here's the money for the soda. Jack hands the kid $2. When he goes to the back to get your soda, put this note on the first table from the back, face up, and put the sugar bowl on the corner of it, so it stays there. And, be sure he doesn't see you do it. Then, come back here and I'll give you your money. That's it? That's it, kid, $10. And a free soda. The boy takes off, running towards the lunchbox with the note. After a minute, he returns. Did it? He says breathlessly. Was there anybody in the place? Asks Jack. Just me and the guy. And you put it on the first table like I said? The boy smiles proudly. Sure did. Did he see you do it? Not a bit. Jack hands the kid the $10 bill. Whenever you want any more notes handed out, I'll be right here, the boy adds, eagerly. Later that morning, Jack arrives at the lunchbox. He sees Charlie, slumped on a stool, his apron clutched in his hand, and his head drooping. His hair is tousled, his face reddened, and his grease-spotted shirt torn. Charlie, what the hell is going on? Those same fucking punks. What happened this time? Charlie begins his stammered explanation. The whole thing was strange. At 10 o'clock that bunch came in, like usual, and they sat at their usual booth. Suddenly, after a minute or two, DS jumped up from the booth, waving this piece of paper in his hand, and yelling, "What's this shit? Where did this come from?" Then, he came over to me and shoved it in my face. I told him I don't know, I really didn't know what he was talking about. I guess that wasn't good enough, because he slapped me across the face and said, "Read it out, so we all can hear it, read it real good Charlie boy." So, I had to read it. What did it say? Can you remember? Yeah, I can remember almost all of it. It said, "No more ripping off the people living in this neighborhood, this is your only warning. If you do it again, you and all of your gang will be punished. This is no bullshit. The Grey Army." Then what, asks Jack. DS asked me again who wrote the note, and I had to tell him all over again that I didn't know, I really don't. To me it sounded like one of those old 60s groups, like the Symbionese Liberation Army, or something like that. That's all I could tell him. What did they do then? They sat there and ate like usual, all the time talking back and forth about that note, trying to figure out where it came from. After about an hour, they left, but, before they did, DS took the note, lit it on fire, and threw it on the table, and he yelled, "That's what we think of that shit. When we find out who left it, we'll show 'em what punishment really is, you can be sure about that." Then, they all marched out and slammed the door behind them, almost knocked it off its hinges. Here's the craziest thing, about 15 minutes later, a kid comes in and starts telling me they're going around asking if anybody knows anything about that note. And, the kid asked me if I remembered him coming into the store. I told him no, I didn't, and the kid just said, "Good," and left.